Hey there, welcome to this week's FM3 blog. I guess I'm doing the regular weekly thing now with this, but I'm learning a lot, so I figured I would share. This week, I had a couple gigs over the weekend. Saturday night, I had a gig in a bar we've played in for a very long time. It's brick walls, concrete floors, usually full of people. They have a huge PA system in there considering the size of the room, and it's fun to play in. It's actually pretty high energy. It's really loud. Bringing the FM3 to that gig's actually been kind of fun because I can actually run my monitor on stage. I can hear as much of myself as I need, and then I'm actually able to go direct out into the house, and they get whatever they need there. And it's actually it's pretty cool. My floor monitor is a wedge, so my speaker's kind of pointing up, so the audience doesn't get as much of my direct sound, which actually I think helps clean the mix up a little bit. On Sunday, I played a kind of a private event at the Long Beach Grand Prix here, and it was in a big tent on a big stage with a big sound system company kind of deal. And that was cool too, because I literally showed up, didn't have to worry about PA, and they set everything up. The sound guy was really helpful. He's a musician, a Helix user, so he's actually real familiar with doing this sort of thing. So he actually gave me a lot of tips and tricks. But even before doing these gigs, I had played a couple gigs with the FM3 2 weeks ago. And the problem I ran into was on the club gig where I was supposed to be running my speaker and a line into the PA. I didn't realize that the two XLR outs on the FM3, when you run it that way, basically they don't split, so the levels aren't independent of each other. So what I thought I was doing was I was running the main out into my amp, or my wedge, and then the second out into the PA, and trying to set the levels for them. And it turns out that only the first knob, the very first output knob on the top of the device, actually sets the levels for both of those. There's probably some way of doing it differently. I haven't been able to figure it out, but for the most part, I kind of screwed up everybody's monitor mixes. So I did some research. It was kind of hard for me to find the answer, but I finally did. So that's why I decided to make this video, is if you want to use your FM3 both with a line directly out to the PA and a line that goes directly to your own amp or monitor situation on stage, independent of that, there's a way to do it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you that here's a picture of the back of my FM3, and you'll notice I've got an XLR cable going into the first output, which is the main output, and then there's a 1/4 inch guitar cable going into the output of I guess it's Effects Send 2. And the thing that happens here is that the knob for output number 1 is still controlling the level to the front of house with the XLR cable. The knob for output number 2 is now controlling the send for the output on that 1/4 inch cable, and I'm using that to go to my wedge. So I'm going to do just a real brief demonstration of how this worked. It's going to be kind of a short video. I only have 2 inputs on my recording pre. I've got an Apollo, an Apogee Duet 2. So I've got my vocal mic that I'm doing this voice with, and then I've got the direct line out of the FM3 for the other side. And what you're going to have is, when I talk about the wedge sound, you're just getting the sound of it through my vocal mic, which is up here, nowhere near the speaker. It's going to sound like garbage. It sounds nothing like it does in the room. Maybe someday I'll actually close mic the speaker, and we'll actually do a comparison between the direct and the mic sound, which is kind of silly to do for this, but just kind of keep that in mind as you've seen in other videos where we talk about this thing. Miking an FRFR cabinet really, it's kind of pointless for a device like this, right? It's just not going to sound as good. I'm not using a dedicated FRFR cabinet like a Mission Gemini or Line 6 Power Crab or any of that stuff. I'm actually using a PA wedge. A friend of mine suggested these EV PXM-12mps, and I really like it for the money. It was about $700, maybe a little over, probably closer to $8 by the time I was done. And it works, it does double purpose. I've used it as a vocal monitor on gigs already, and it works pretty good for the output of the FM3. Are there better sounding cabinets out there? Maybe, probably. I do know that I got a chance to hear my rig. The sound guy actually played through my stuff at the Long Beach Grand Prix gig, and I got to sit out in the audience and hear, and through the QSC PA system that they had there. It sounded actually way better than it did on stage, which was nice to know. But for my purposes, which is literally just to give me some amp feel on stage, the EV Wedge works pretty good, and it's not super expensive. One other thing that the sound guy really suggested is I go to an in-ear monitor system for this, and it'll make it all the difference. But he said that you really need to spend a lot of money and get a decent one. So that's kind of out of my budget for the time being. But eventually I'm going to have to do something like that. And he said once you do that, it makes life a lot easier. You know, kills the ear fatigue, and you hear everything much more accurately. So we'll see. I don't know. Anyway, but that's the deal. So let's kind of show you how this works real quick. Okay, so here we go. Just real quick. I've got both of these zeroed out. I'm gonna hit a chord. Level number 1 is the output, which would go normally to the PA. It's going to my recording interface. If I zero that guy out, and then level number 2 is going to my wedge. Which I'm sure sounds absolutely horrendous through the microphone the way it's placed. Line 2, that 1/4-inch cable, it's going to the one of the inputs of the EV speaker, and the EV speaker's got kind of a cool concentric jack, so you can put an XLR into each channel, or you can put a 1/4-inch cable, and that's what I'm doing. And I'm making sure that the speaker is running at +4 for the input level, so that it's actually plenty loud. One of the first things I did was I couldn't figure out why I wasn't getting any signal out of it, and I didn't realize that, you know, the speaker's got 2 channels. Each channel has its own input gain, and then there's a master volume. PA speakers have gotten way more complicated than the last time I bought them. So the upshot of this is that I was able to give the front of house as much signal as they needed, which also fed the in-ear monitor systems of the other guys. And for me, I also had my own speaker on stage, which allowed me to actually kind of crank up whatever volume I needed at whatever part of the day just by using the knob on the top of the FM3. All right, it was a short video. Hopefully this was useful. I had a hard time finding this information when I really needed it, so that's why I made this week. I had some other stuff to talk about. We'll do that next week, though. We're going to kind of talk about some of the things I found about making these amps sound kind of cool. Some more tips and tricks, apparently, things I've stumbled on. So anyway, I'll see you next week, and I hope this was helpful. If you like this channel, please hit like, hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that happy stuff. If you look down, we'll have links below, affiliate links for Amazon. We've got a store with t-shirts, sweatshirts, mugs, water bottles, all that happy stuff. Anything you can do to help support the channel, I do appreciate it. Thanks a lot.